Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 176. If you are listening on the day of release, which I know many of you do, it's January the 12th. So this is our second podcast of 2024. And just very quickly, if you're watching on video on YouTube, both Pete and I are wearing a t-shirt which says Lift for Life. And it's for Mark Tonner, who we had on the week before last. I think he was on the Boxing Day episode. And it's a charity for suicide prevention charity. And he did his 24-hour deadlift challenge. If you remember Mark, he's a one-armed disabled strongman who was doing his 24-hour deadlift. So these T-shirts are available. We both ordered green, but Pete has got green and I've got black.
Well, I thought I wanted green, but it only said black. But I got a green one and then you got a black one. So that's when I said to you, well, why don't you order a green one? You're like, well, I'll end up with two black ones.
yeah. So these T-shirts, all of the proceeds do go to the Ripple suicide prevention charity. So you'll see us sharing links and stuff, and maybe we'll try and put a link somewhere but these are done through Industry Lifestyle. We'll give a shout out to Tony Vanderburg from Industry Lifestyle, who did these T-shirts and made it so that, all the proceeds from the sales of the T-shirt go direct to the charity. And obviously Mark's raising money as well for Ripple suicide prevention. So yeah, just wanted to say we're wearing these T-shirts, and next time I do my deadlifts, which is going to be tomorrow, I'll wear the T-shirt for deadlifting and I'll pop a video and things up. So yes, Pete, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I want to say these T-shirts are top quality as well. When I pulled it out, it felt like I was like, "Oh, that feels lovely."
Now I've got a few of these that I wore them to the SFL actually recently. Yeah. The Magnus for Magnuson ones, but they're lovely soft cotton T-shirts.
Yeah, because I've had some printed before for myself and everything, and they're always rubbish. They're never whenever I get them from anywhere else, they're always really good. So I'm doing something wrong somewhere.
Oh, they're lovely T-shirts, and yeah, well done. And we're going to catch up again with Mark, aren't we? And see, with him.
I'll have to ask him actually, because when he said he's obviously he's got two arms, he's just not got the use of one of them. Yes. When he said the one-armed man, I immediately thought of The Fugitive, and I was like, was he in that as well?
Yeah, because his one-arm power, I think, is his website, or so he's great. And we are joined today by a very, very special guest. He's joining us for his third visit actually, and he's one of our favorite people really. We've spent a lot of time with him in real life, and I was with him just about a month ago, I think it was, maybe 4 weeks ago, in Oxford at the Strong First SFL. So we're joined by Mr. Fabio Zonin, who is in, is it Vicenza, Italy, Fabio?
Yes, Vicenza.
Fantastic. And just quickly, before we start, I will say, welcome to new listeners. I know we have new listeners watching and listening. And just so you know, Fabio's other two episodes that he's on, this is episode 176. If you want to go back, because we're not going to kind of go over Fabio's kind of history and his story and everything. We're going to kind of, be talking about something new today. But the two episodes that Fabio's been on previously are episode 58, which was called The Universal Principles of Strength, and episode 98, which was called Building Strength as we age. So they were two really fantastic, interesting episodes. So if you haven't listened to them, go back and listen to them, and then come back forwards to episode 176 to join us today. So Fabio, how are you doing, mate? Are you okay?
I'm doing great, thank you. Just finished with the last event of the year, so I'm getting ready to get some rest finally after so many weekends back to back teaching and traveling all the time. And so we did this open day in Naples last week, and which was very successful. We had 150 participants over there. And now it's time to get ready for some rest and family time finally. By the way, I saw your T-shirts. I want to be part of that. So please, after this, share the link with me. I'm going to get one of those shirts.
Yeah, I'll email you the link. And like I say, it's Lift for Life for suicide prevention. And the guy on the T-shirt is Mark, who we had on the podcast a few weeks ago. I mean,
just to put it into context for you, Fabio, he's going to deadlift for 24 hours, and he wants to get a personal total of 100,000 kilos.
Wow.
I know. And when he first tried it 20 years ago, he's a strong bloke.
No, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
I thought you said it was 2002, yeah. But anyway.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I thought you said 20 years ago.
All right. Sorry.
Yeah. 2 years ago. Yeah.
2 years ago. I might have said 20. Anyway, he can a 200 kilo deadlift for him is easy. So he tried to do sets of 5 with 200 every 7 minutes, and he got to 3 hours. And then by the end of 24 hours, he was using 60 kilos because he was done. So he's had to think about it this time. So I can't remember what his strategy was, but he wants to get to 100,000 in 24 hours. He's
going to use 100 kilo.
Yeah.
Sorry, we might be confusing people. We're recording this before he's done it, so but it's coming out after he's done it. Sorry. Yeah, we're recording this before he's done it. This is just prior to Christmas, but I know it's now January. So his tactic this time is to use 100 kilos, and then I presume it's doing 1,000 reps with that, or a minimum
24 hours.
Yeah, a minimum. He wants to get an absolute minimum of 100,000 kilos in the 24 hours. That'll be 1,000 reps with 100 kilos.
41 reps an hour, which is which means that pretty much I think it's doable.
Yeah,
he'll do it.
Yeah, he'll do it. But we said about it's all good because we had a guy on the other week as well, Chris Branch, who was running 100 miles. And he'll have the same, but Mark has been doing sleep deprivation and staying awake for 36 hours and things to prepare himself. Because Chris, when he was running his 100 miles in 24 hours, said, and you've said this, Pete, haven't you, with walking, when you get into the middle of the night and it's 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and your body just wants to go to sleep, but you just have to keep doing it. That's when it's when it really gets hard. So no, it's going to be
actually just walk. You think walking, it's dead easy, but you get tired. So deadlifting is going to be it doesn't matter how heavy it is, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Compared to walking, you get the adrenaline spike, because even though that's for this gentleman, the weight is fairly light. If he could do sets of 5 with 200, but still. It's not something you keep doing and you get bored, and you go into your parasympathetic system, you will still have to use your orthosympathetic. So basically, a few reps with deadlift are pretty much like a nice cup of coffee. So that will probably help him. I just see the results.
No, it's going to be great. It's going to be really interesting, and they are going to try and expand it out more, I think, in the future. So we'll keep you posted, and it might be something that you might be interested in, getting involved in the future for charity and stuff. It's great. It's a great idea. So Fabio, so you've been doing your recent or your last kind of workshops and your last events of 2023. You're now moving into, like you say, family time, Christmas time, kind of relaxing a bit. But knowing you'll still be training. You're not going to be resting. And just before we came on, you said you've been experimenting with some new programming and some new protocols, and you mentioned your body weight and things. Do you want to kind of tell us a little bit about that, about what you've been doing and the results you've been having?
It's connected with our previous podcast, which is about getting strong as you age. As you. For new listeners, I'm 54, right? And I've been now, technically we're already in 2024, which means that right now it's exactly 40 years of lifting. So it's pretty much 40 years, I deadlift and squat and bench pretty much, 3 times a week. never stop. I like to brag about the fact that, Yes, sir.
Except for that one day in 1994 when you missed a session, I always remember that.
Say that. Except 1996, it was August 15, 1996. The only
96, right, yeah.
Which was the only training session that I did miss. I did not recover because it was my first marriage day, and my wife would not allow me to recover that during the honeymoon. So, but after that, I always, if I missed a training session, I recovered it. it's interesting because, for instance, when we did the SFL in UK, I did not train that weekend, but most of the times I just find a way to, to plug my training sessions in during lunch breaks and so on, because there's no way, I'm going to miss a training session. For instance, yesterday I had my very good friend and colleague, Annalisa Naldi from California. She's been with us the past couple of weeks for the SFB and the Open Day and so on. And she was leaving this morning, so we had a dinner scheduled. And she went ahead to go for dinner with my family. I did my training session, then I joined them at dinner because there was no way I was going to miss my training session. So, it's consistency is very important if you want to get results. So as I was saying, I'm 54 and I wanted to see if I'm able to get back in the shape of when I was 44, 10 years ago. So I started dieting. I have this, interestingly, genetically, I tend to gain weight. So if I don't stay always mindful of what I eat, I tend to gain weight, and I always get the set point is around 95, 97 kilos, which, as you know, I'm not a tall guy, so it's kind of heavy for my weight. And every time I diet and I get back in shape, I'm able to go back down to somewhere between 82 and 86 kilos, and that lasts for 2 years. I'm able to maintain that weight for 2 years, and then I start gaining weight no matter what I do. My body wants to go back to 96, 97. So what I did basically, I realized that I was getting heavy, and so I decided to push the pedal. In August, I went on vacation, and I've been eating for like 1 week, no limits. I had, appetizer, first course, second course, dessert, 3 meals a day like that, and I did not deprive myself from anything. So from 95 went to 97, and I said, okay, now it's time. I gave me time until Christmas to go back, to 85. Now I'm rushing. I got 1 kilo to lose. I'm 86 now. I have to get that done by Christmas, so I can, I can post it. I can take a photo and share it. So I've been matching, some diet with some experimental protocols. So I've been using some different type of protocols from the usual ones, the one that we usually promote, in Strawford's our school. Something that came out. I don't know if you're aware. We had this event with Fabio Zonin, Hector Gutierrez, and myself called Programming Demystified, in which each one of us basically came up with all the new researches we found, all our new ideas and so on. We put them together in one event, and I learned so much from my colleagues, and I started implementing those ideas I got there with mine, and so I designed some experimental plans. And I love being the guinea pig of myself. The procedure usually is when I have a new idea, I try it on myself and my training partner. Then if it works, I have my close circle of folks. I've been training like for 15, 20 years. They'll be experimented with the plan. I will tweak it, and then finally I make it public. That's pretty much the idea. So I've been experimenting 2 different plans back to back on myself, plus the diet. And I'm testing this week. I'm testing. So I'm testing the body weight, and I don't really use technology for body composition. I just look at the mirror, take a photo and so on. I'm a low tech guy. But on your end,
I was just going to ask Fabio, just quickly. I know you did some bodybuilding shows in the past and things, and I've seen the black and white photos. It looked fantastic from there. When you would have stepped on stage and kind of competed in bodybuilding, what would your body weight have been there? Just so I've got a bit of a reference in my mind as to.
Around 82 kilos the last competitions. So pretty much the last one, by the way, I did it in 2017, and it was a local competition. I just went there because I was planning going back to powerlifting. I injured my shoulder. I couldn't go to powerlift anymore. I had to have surgery. So I said, you know what? Let's do a bodybuilding show. And I wanted to see if I could keep my body weight, keep my muscle mass, and so on. So I did it in 2017. I was 82, but of course I was ripped. So not being ripped, shredded, but being lean, 85 is a good set point. Is a good set point for me.
Yeah.
I don't expect to improve, at my age, but being able to, to repeat the performance in terms of strength and have and look pretty much like 10 years ago and then 20 years ago. It was interesting. I competed regularly until 1994. Then I did one competition in 2006, one in 2007, one in 2017. So basically it's 10 years apart, right? So I want to see if I'm able to be pretty much in the same shape, because it means that whatever I'm doing for anti-aging is working, right?
Yeah.
So up to now, I did test something which is interesting. Now, my last time I tested my 1 rep maxes, I think it was, well, I'm not going for PRs. I'm testing heavy singles. I don't compete anymore. So I think it was around 2018, and pretty much same body weight as now after dieting and so on. And I'm trying to recreate those, see if I'm able to lift pretty much the same. And up to now, I tested the squat yesterday, and I hit an easy 230 kilos. So my PR last time was 240. By the way, no knee straps or anything, raw, just having the belt. And it's 10 kilos lower only for one reason, just because I only had one spotter instead of 2 spotters or 3 spotters this time. So I did dare to do 230, which was fairly easy. I didn't dare to go 240 or 250, because in that case, I would feel safer, having 2 spotters. Then I tested a bench press, and last time was, now I do have some injuries in the shoulder, so I'm not as strong as I used to be 20 years ago, but still I replicated my 140 with no problems. It was fairly easy to lift. And I'm testing military press and deadlift this week, so we'll see what's going to happen. What I did last week, so I've always deadlifted conventional, and previous, 1 rep max was 270 kilos, but now I'm training sumo. So what I did, I want to test conventional to have terms of comparison, but I haven't trained it. So I just wanted to see how sumo went, and I think it was last Friday, I just did a few singles. I did a single with 250. That came with no problem. So I'll see if Friday I'm able to, do 260, 270. I mean, that would be great. I'm not sure it's going to happen, but I'm going to give it a shot.
I said to a few people after the SFL, because we we had the photo done right at the end of the last day, and then the bar was loaded. I think it was 220 or 230.
Yeah.
And we had the photo, and then you stood up, and then you just did, I think it was 3 or 4 reps with the 220, 230, but you'd not warmed up, you'd not been training, you'd just been, you've been teaching and talking, and you just stood up off the floor and just started repping with this, 230, I think it might have been, from just from cold, which was incredible, really.
And it was fairly cold. Now I wouldn't be able to do that with a squat, for instance, but for deadlift, I don't really warm up, because the deadlift, the secret, they say the hardest is the way down, the easier the way up. So you don't really need to mobilize anything. If you're stiff, as long as you can reach the bar, it's even easier, as long as you're not stiff to the point that you're not able to reach the bar down there. But and I have to confess a little secret there, because usually 220, I think it was 220. It's fairly doable weight for me. I can do like 6-7 reps, no problem. But what I did in the rush of doing it, I didn't grip the bar well. So at a certain point, my left hand was giving up the grip, and I said, I can't miss it in front of everybody, I cannot. So I didn't dare to do too many reps. I think it did 4.
Yeah, I think it was 4. Yeah, 4. I think. Yeah.
But but that was an easy one. So I did the same in Greece. We had this SFL in Greece, and by mistake, right, they loaded the bar 250. So I just deadlifted 250 cold, and I was not aware, right? Which means that, oh, shoot, it's heavy. So I'm only going to do 1 rep. Then after I said, oh, that was like 30 extra kilos. You know, when in your mindset you're thinking you're ready for a certain weight, and then it turns out you have different weight. You know, it's totally different. It kind of shocks you, right? But the good thing is that,
I think you said at the SFL, didn't you, that like when you obviously if you know how much something weighs and how heavy you're expecting it to be, you mentally prepare for that weight and you recruit the certain number of motor units and everything that you need to lift that weight. So if and we said, didn't we, before, whereby, you know, like if you put a kettlebell on the floor and it looked like a kettlebell, and it had 48 kilos written on it, but it's made of polystyrene, and you were going to swing it, you'd set up and you'd get ready to swing 48 kilos, and then it would fly, you know, because it's polystyrene. You've massively sort of like over prepared yourself for the weight. So it happens both ways, I suppose, doesn't it? You know, you can, yeah.
And it's interesting because it works also the other way around. So I don't know, I'm pretty sure you experienced this. Maybe you have a plan that has a heavy day and a light day. So you have your heavy day and you prepare for that weight and you lift it, right? Then you have the light day and you think, oh, that's going to be an easy, right? You do the light day and it feels heavy. It feels heavy just because you're not in the mindset for a heavier weight. So you don't feel you're really resting. And so this is kind of interesting. Another thing that happens, you know, when you go on the Western linear plans, in which like you increase weight pretty much every week, is that every week you feel it heavy to the point that you ask yourself, how am I going to do it next week? And you start building the fear. You know, next week I'm not going to make it. That's going to be heavy. The day before you're scared. Tomorrow it's a heavy day. I'm not going to be able to make the number of reps out. But then you do it. And it's not only the improvement of your strength, it's most likely the fact that you're mentally prepared for harder effort and your body gets ready for it. Also, when you do repetition ladders, you know, you have to do a set of 3 and it feels heavy. And you know, next set will be 5. And you say, how am I going to do 5? And you do the 5. Right, because basically you're getting your mind, you're setting up your mindset for that amount of weight and that amount of reps, pretty much. And by the way, I need to shout out for your attempts of the military press now for listeners. Now, what James did was incredible during the SFL. I mean, you didn't have the military press, you were close. Actually, you had your weight, but turned out that you were heavier when you got weight, right? And probably, you know, when you travel, you have to eat different food and so on. So you had to go heavier. And that was not the weight he was prepared for. And how many times did we attempt that? Like,
I think we attempted it 4 times over the weekend, the 5 reps. And each time I got 4 and a bit, didn't I? I got 4 and a quarter, then 4 and a half.
The interesting part is that you got 4, then you got 4 and a bit, then you got 4 and a little bit more, and then you got 4 and more, and then you knocked it, you know, a few days later. But the interesting thing is that everyone knows that after a maximal effort, your nervous system gives up for a while, so you're not able to replicate that. Your performance should go down. But, you know, in your case, it was incredible seeing how well how fast you were able to pick up the details of the lift and improve your technique. I would have never suggested, not even allowed anyone else to retest, right? But I saw that you were so close, but I saw that you got all the instructions and your technique was so improving so quickly that I knew that even if your nervous system was tired, you could have probably done it. But the way, you know, I like the idea of saying, if you need to fail, you need to fail as a professional or fail with honor. You know, you just don't yield. So you didn't make the lift, but you stayed with the weight for the entire time. You know, you got stuck at the sticking point, but the bar went down through the same path and everything was perfect. So that was an example, a teaching moment for everyone in the course, you know, because usually when you struggle with a weight, people panic. people panic and start doing some monkey business. You know, they compromise technique, they cheat, or they simply get scared and give up. And you didn't, you know, you didn't give up. You didn't yield to the weight. You kept pushing. You stayed with the weight, but also you did not allow your body to compensate in any manner. So you stay with it. So all those attempts were so beautiful. They were a great example for all those who were, you know, participating in the course.
Oh, thank you. And then I left it. I think I had 2 days rest. So I did the last attempt would have been, it was on the Sunday afternoon. And then I rested. I just did nothing on the Monday, nothing on the Tuesday. And then I did it on the Wednesday, you know, I just had very limited warm up. I think I did so it was 55 kilos the press. I think I did like 5 just with the bar, and then like 3 with 40 maybe, and 2 with 50, and then just did the 5 reps, you know. But yeah.
And that's also a great strategy. Now, you know, many confuse warm up, actually what I call ramp up, with wear out. You know, if you spend like half hour warming up, movement preps here, you lose focus, and also you get tired. Especially you got to stay away from lactic acid. What you want to do is down-regulate your Golgi tendons so they don't switch your muscles off, and get ready for the lift. You do need to put some, you know, what's the name in English? Synovial liquid in your joints. Is that correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Synovial fluid, yeah.
So I'll give you an example. For deadlift, there's a very short range of motion. So as you usually, you know, when I did 250 in sumo last week, I just loaded the bar with 170, and I did like 2 reps. Then I did, you know, 210, I think, and I did a rep. Then 230, 240, 250. That's it. And yesterday when I tested my squat, so I do need to warm up my knees a little bit. Just again, you know, squeeze some synovial liquid in the joints. So I did just with the bar. I just did 5 reps, and then I put up 70, and I did 2 reps. 120, 2 reps. 170, 1 rep. 200, 1 rep. 220, 1 rep. 230, 1 rep. That's it. There are different strategies, but most people make the mistake of over warming up and plugging in too many reps, and that doesn't help at all. And the other interesting thing is that you want a very high jump at the beginning until you reach a weight that is close to what you're expecting to lift, and then you make shorter jumps at the very end. It's interesting because let's say you lift 100 just to make it easy, right? So everything will be easy up to, you know, 75, 80. And if you load 70 or 80, it doesn't make that much of a difference for a single lift. But as you get closer to your 1 rep max, 2.2 kilos matter, 1 kilo matters. So you need to be precise at the very end, but not at the beginning. So you just.
I was just going to ask Pete, have you got a 44 kilo kettlebell yet?
No, I don't need one. I've got a 40 with two magnetic plates.
Oh, okay. So you will have the ability to have a 44, but
yeah, because the 40 is big enough to be able to. Because the plates I've got, right, it's quite funny. I've got 2 1 kilo plates.
Oh, they're the magnetic add-ons, are they?
Yeah, the magnet is raised slightly, so you can put them together. My 2 kilo plates, you've got the same ones, I think. The magnet is flush. And I put them together once. It was a workout to get them apart. It's like, because they're strong bloody magnets. But the beauty of a 40 is I can put one on the bottom, and the 40 that I've got has got a flat face on it, and it's about the size of the plate, so I can just put that on there, and then I can do it that way.
So I was just going to ask Fabio, just as a real life working example, because Pete's pressing is getting really strong. And if have you ever pressed more than a 40, Pete?
No,
but he's done like 5 reps and 4 reps with a 40, and done 10 with a 36 and things like that. So if Pete or someone else was to go for was to want to press, I mean, would you ever go, Pete, from a 40 to a 44, or would you try a 42 first?
I've no idea.
No, I was just going to ask Fabio's advice on building up to a 1 rep max kettlebell military press. You know,
this is interesting. The kettlebells have, except for the very light sizes, where you have the 2 kilo jump, you have 4 kilos jump, and the 4 kilo jump makes it real challenging for lightweights. But the stronger you get, the 4 kilos don't matter that much. Let me see. Let's say if you go from a 12 to a 16 bell, it's only 4 kilos, but it's a 33% increase. So not easy to go from one to the other. You need to be able to plug a lot of volume with a 12 to be able to press a 16. And ladies who get ready for the SFG know this very well. But if you press a 40, it's 10%. 4 kilos is 10%. So it's not as big. Now, if you can press the 40 for 5 reps, it means that 40 is pretty much around 85% of your 1 rep max. So while you were talking, I just did the calculations. So you have a theoretical 1 rep max of 47 kilos, which means that you could go to the 44. The only problem with the kettlebells, when you change sizes, it's not only the weight. The fact that shape changes, the way the handle fits in your hand changes, the center of mass lowers of the bell, because you have to think that small bell center of mass is in the center of the bell, right? So small bell center of mass is here. When you have bigger bell, center of mass goes down, which changes slightly your path. And so you're theoretical, but if you're theoretical, your estimated 1 rep max is 47. 44 is reasonable. You can just go from the 40 to the 44.
Yeah. Well, that's good then, Pete. If you're 47 is the calculation, and you want the 48, don't you? Eventually?
Yeah. What's interesting though is the way I've done it. It's not. I mean, it's programmed for me, but the way I wasn't meant to press the 40 for 5. I just thought I'd have a go because I felt on that particular day, and it wasn't even feeling strong on that particular day. Just the 32 has been moving. That is my main working weight at the minute, and that's been moving super well. I managed to get 10 reps with the 36, which is my half body weight. So I was like, right, that's good. And it felt easy. So I did, not on the same day. And then that was on the Monday, I think. And then I trained Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So the Friday, I was like, I'll just have a go with a 40. And I got 3 reps. And that was in the middle of my training. So for the warm-up, say, I did 10 reps with the 32. And then I did, and I'm doing ladders with a 32. So somewhere in that ladder, I thought, right, the 32's flying, so I'll have a go with the 40. And I did 3. And then the week after the 10 reps with the 32, which was, I wasn't doing a warm up or anything. I was just like, how do I feel? Feels fine. So I thought I'll have a go with the 40, and I managed to get 5. So the way I've been doing it is I don't care what my 1 rep max is. I want to make the heavier bells feel like I can just do them whenever. So, because you have a great, you feel great on a particular day, and you'll press a bell, and then the next week you'll try it and you can't do it and all of that. I want to be able to do like 3 with it, just like now, just go and pick it up and go, I can just do 3 whenever I like. So that's the way I've been dealing with it. So it doesn't matter what my 1 rep max is. And then eventually I want to get to be able to do like that with a 48, just pick it up and do like 2 or 3 with nothing.
You know what? I love your strategy, because it's about owning the weight versus peaking, which means you don't own it. You lift it once and you don't know if you'll ever lift it again, And again, if you're competing, I did some powerlifting meets many years ago. If you compete, your goal is peaking, right? Is you have a certain level of strength, but you want to be stronger on that particular day, which means you're peaking for that day, and then you psych for that day, but you don't own that weight. You did it that day, right? But when you're training for strength and health and performance, in the long term, you don't peak. You don't need to peak. This is why I don't test to go for PRs. And when I train, I like to train 1 rep maxes, what Dan John calls sort of max, right? The idea is I want to see what I own and I can replicate at any time, because this is how strong I am for life. So I love your philosophy and the idea of saying, I own this weight. And by the way, especially with kettlebells, you know, with barbells, you have so many options for planning because you have linear planning, you know, you have, for at least for progressive overload, you have, you know, wave cycling, or you have, you know, something like plant strong and so on, where you wave the volume, etc. With kettlebells, you can't really wave the intensity as much as you do with other plants for one reason, because the jumps between sizes are huge. So with a barbell, you know, you can say, okay, I'm lifting 125 this week, and next week it'll be 127.5, and so on. You can really adjust timely, you know, make a little adjustment to the weight of the bar and wave the intensity. With kettlebells, hey, you've got a 36, you got a 40, right, and a 44. You can't make small changes. So what you need to do is basically you can wave the volume, or simply be able to gradually put up more work with a given size to the point in which, getting to the point in which you feel that it becomes light. And this is something that most people don't like to do because people have no patience. They want to increase the weight all the time, right? Well, you know, step cycling, which is the most common with kettlebell, which means staying with the same weight and gradually increase the volume, basically build up the volume that you can, you know, accomplish in 1 day or 1 week with that weight, leads you to own that weight. Now, it may sound boring because you keep using always the same weight over and over and over, but if you pay attention to details, you realize that the effort gradually goes down. You start owning the technique more and more and more. You know, you get to the point in which once you achieve it, even if it takes more time, it's yours. It's yours. And something that people don't get, most people don't get, is the shorter it takes you to get there, the shorter it will take you to lose it.
Yeah.
The longer the path to reach, you know, to reach at that point, you know, if you have a plan that keeps you on for months and months and months with the same size, once you reached the new level of performance, it's going to be hard for you to lose it. You're going to keep it for pretty much forever. And one example is the deadlift. Now, it's more than 2 years I deadlift sumo. I don't do conventional, but I can go anywhere and pick up 250 kilo bar and just deadlift it. And this is due to the fact that I owned it before, so it's easier to achieve again. You don't lose that much. When you just peak, you have it that day, and then 2 weeks later you try, you can't even lift, you know, you have a hard time lifting 85, 90% of that weight.
So that's actually, I was just going to quickly say, Pete, before you, so for you, Fabio, talking about the deadlift and your body weight and that, your kind of body, your deadlift that you've built up to be the deadlift that you truly own, it's about a triple body weight, isn't it? It was around triple body weight.
So when I did 270, I was 82, so it was 3.3 pretty much.
Yeah, you know, so over triple body weight deadlift. Yeah, amazing. Sorry, Pete, what were you going to say? I was just
going to say about the peaking thing. I mean, because, like, you know, we spoke to Paul McElroy about this a while ago, didn't we? And it was like, his view was like, if you're not competing, you've no right to peak. You know, it's like you can go for a 1 rep max, but there's no right to peak because you can hurt yourself and you don't own it. Like you're saying, you're not competing in anything. You're only competing with yourself. And my thought on that is the 32, like 3 years ago, I could press the 32 like twice. I couldn't press the 36. The 40, I had one, but I didn't, like, you know, it was just gathering dust. But without going anywhere near those bells, and the 36 and the 40, I haven't gone anywhere near them for about a year. And then now they're easy. And I haven't even touched them. So, you know, but the thing is, learning that patience. I mean, you've been lifting for 40 years, right? I've been basically, for the last 10 years is when I've been doing it. I was recreationally exercising when I was a bit younger, but it's basically over the last 10 years.
You know, you brought up 2 points that are crucial. One is about peaking. Now, peaking, see, when you peak and you have a competition, you want to make the lift legal, which does not mean perfect. Legal means you get white lights in the competition. but you lead yourself to compensations and so on. And again, you don't own it, right? But what you said, so peaking, unless you compete, it doesn't take you anywhere. You may want to test a 1-rep max, but again, it's a training max with perfect technique to see where you're at and recalculate your training weight. This does make sense to me. But the other great point you made is this, and this is where most people don't get it. When you train for strength, you don't need to use heavy weights all the time. People think, oh, if I gotta get strong, I gotta do singles with heavy weights. Not really, because here's the point. You need to plug some volume in, because, strength, it's, yes, about being able to generate tension at the heads of the muscles. That's in physiology. But it's also about being able to find the perfect path for the implement. So having perfect technique, because it doesn't matter how strong you are. If Bill is stronger than Frank, but Frank has a better path for the implement, Frank will lift more, right? So strength is a skill. Yes, it's neurological. There's all the factor of recruiting muscle motor units and so on and so forth. Synchronization, there's some physiological aspects, but there's the technique aspect, right? So when you train super heavy all the time, first of all, you burn your nervous system. You really get it tired, so you cannot do it for a long time, but you cannot do high volumes. It means you cannot do many reps in one session, and you cannot do many sessions in a week, right? So going too heavy doesn't help you. It doesn't build a good technique because you don't practice enough to improve your technique. And also it's too heavy for you to be always perfect. And at the same time, you burn out and you cannot plug volume in. Now, if you go too light, it doesn't build strength. You can do perfect movement, but you don't learn anything, So medium weights are those who really build strength. So as you said, you build up to being able to complete 5 reps with the 40 kilos by training basically with a 32, which sounds incredible, and people don't get this.
But what's interesting with that is it took me a lot of years to learn to have that patience, right? So when I was trying to force being stronger, I ended up not as strong as just forgetting about forcing it. And I mean, this is true, like being coached as well. I haven't done this myself, obviously, but without trying to force it and just going with the program and going with this is what it is, I've actually got stronger just by being patient. And that's what you were saying that people struggle with because they want it and they want it now. And you're saying you can pick up 270 on it. You've been lifting weights for 40 years. It's like, there you go.
Yeah, but here's the point. Patience and strength go together. It's interesting. Sometimes I find it funny when people get ready for SFG1, and they train their conditioning for the snatch test. They started a year earlier. Now, conditioning, getting conditioned doesn't take as much time as getting strong. So their mistake is that they try to do the snatch test with a 24 for 1 year and they just get weaker, while they should be able to put up several sets of 10 with a heavier size, and then building that conditioning at the end, getting ready for this strength endurance doesn't take as long. But strength takes years and years of practice, and it takes a lot of time and requires a lot of patience. But this is the only way, you said it, we always want to run. And unfortunately, people get the message once they got injured enough times. Because as coaches, we know this, we've been there, we did make a mistake, we did get injured, and we provide the good advice for our students, but they will try to do what they want anytime. One of the mistakes I made consistently until I learned the lesson was you go through a plan, then you go through the peaking phase, right? You achieve your new PR, and then you want to recalculate your training weights according to a PR. So many people do this. Again, a PR, you don't own it. So if that PR, that 1 rep was not perfect, and you calculate your training weight for the upcoming plan based on something that was not perfect, your entire plan will be made of imperfect reps. So I learned, my experience taught me to design my plans around one rep max that I own rather than something that I did once by mistake.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I wrote that down just there. That's why I was just that patience and strength go together.
They go together.
I do this a lot when we do this podcast. I have to stop and write notes because that's just, one of those, I suppose that's like a universal truth, that, and I have this, we spoke about this, I think a few weeks ago with the podcast, where I have members at the gym who maybe they're only kind of they're recreational exercise trainers. They maybe do 2 or 3 sessions a week, but they're not in it, as much as the 3 of us are, and and some of them get impatient when they're not constantly getting stronger. And what many people view getting stronger is lifting more weights on the bar or lifting more weight, more load. So the conversation we're having is brilliant because I've tried to kind of explain that there are many ways that you can measure getting stronger, not just the weight on the bar. Like you say, the same weight but a lower RPE, it feels easier, the same weight but more volume, the same weight but better technique, the same weight but it's more repeatable, all these things. It's not just about adding more weight onto the bar or going up to the next kettlebell, especially if you're expecting to get stronger every single month and you're really just training maybe twice a week. It's not gonna happen always.
You made such a wonderful point, and I had the same conversation a few days ago with Annalisa. So Annalisa, for those who don't know her, she's a member of Teacher of Strength of Strongfirst. She's based in California with Italian origins, and she's been here a couple of weeks, and she tested last week her 1 reps, right? 1 rep maxes. And we're discussing this because now you get a new student, right? When I get a new student who has never been exposed to my plans or the type of plans we design, usually they have huge, increments in the first 1, 2, probably 3 plans. The increment from one plan to the other is huge, and then suddenly you hit the point of diminishing returns, and you get the point in which sometimes you complete a plan and you're not able to replicate what you lifted in the previous plan, which becomes very frustrating. But you need to keep up with that and deal with this because, you can't always go up, and everything in the universe works in cycles from day and night to the seasons and so on and so forth. So you can't always go up. Sometimes you need to accept the fact that you're stepping back. For instance, sometimes I recall many years ago when I met Pavel at the seminar, the first seminar I took with Pavel, he taught us some squat and stuff and something on the bench press. And after I got what I learned from him, my 1 rep max went down actually because I learned a new technique. And it took me some months to go back to the previous numbers, but then I overcame the previous numbers. So sometimes you make some adjustments, right? And I always joke on this, if that progressive overload theory is based on the legend of Milo of Proton, right? So this Greek wrestler who would, lift the calf every morning and the calf would get heavier, blah, blah, blah. So if you gradually increase the weight, your body adapts and there's no limit how stronger you can get. Great idea, but it doesn't really work in real life. And so what I usually say is, listen, if progressive overload worked in the long term, considering I lifted my first barbell in 1983, right? Probably right now, I would be able to press overhead Starship Enterprise with Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, and which does not happen. It never happened and will never happen. So at a certain point, you hit a plateau, right? And so, for instance, Annalisa did not improve any of her 1 reps maxes compared to the previous plan this time. She did the previous one, but squat was deeper. It was a straight line. There was no compensation. The hips did not shoot up. The bench press, she had a perfect setup and she pulled more on the chest. So actually, I did measure some improvements. So there was improvement, even though you didn't lift more weight. So as you said before, improving and getting stronger is not only lifting more weight on the bar, because sometimes you do lift more weight on the bar, but you watch the videos and the lift is poor, or you did not go as deep into squat. So basically you're cheating with yourself, And so you got to be prepared of the fact that at a certain point, you'll see a PR every 3-4 years. I mean, it took me years to be able to replicate lifts from weights that I lifted many years ago. And guess what? Now that we're not, well, you guys are younger than I am, but right now I'm getting ready to just be happy with slowing down the cadence,
Yeah, but it's got, I mean, it's so, and that comes that saying that you said, patience. That may be the title of the podcast, actually, patience and strength. Because I think
I can see a Facebook post coming up with a tile on it as well, James.
yeah.
Pale blue background with unique results straight across.
I've already done it. I've already sent it. Can be done. Yeah, because but that really is such a big thing, isn't it? Patience and strength. I love that. And like you say, I think it may have been before. I think it was near the start of the podcast or before we started recording that you said you're 54 now. Yep. So if you can, match what you were doing at 44, then that is massive.
That's magic.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting to increase anything. May happen by chance, improve. If that happens, I can be super happy. But the idea is, again, at a certain point, you can't expect to grow anymore, but being able to maintain all your capabilities is great, get grayer hair, but, being able to lift the same. And also, I'm thinking 360 degrees, I'm thinking about also my mental capacities, being able to being fast in reasoning as before in calculations and so on. And all that, guess what? It's like strength training. It needs patience and practice. So, I practice a lot also my math skills and several other things, because I do believe that the only way to keep the brains, fresh and young is to practice it. And so strength is just a great example of what we should do in general in life. Is we learn through practice and we lose through not practicing something anymore,
Because there's a thing, I know that you mentioned Dan John earlier with the what was it in relation to? You mentioned
the max.
The sort of match, yeah. Your kind of your daily match, your max, your sort of max, and all the rest of it. But another thing that he says about, he talks a lot about obviously getting onto the floor and getting off the floor. And if you get onto the floor every single day and you get up off of the floor every single day, for whatever reason, if it's to get down and do some mobility or some rocking or some stretching or some, like a ground force method or whatever, or to do some Turkish get-ups, if you do that every day, you're not suddenly going to wake up one day and not be able to do it or be surprised when you can't do it, because it's something you do every day. So you notice a slight change, whereas people who avoid getting onto the floor, and some people say we do it with we have something where we get people, we do the standing long jump as a bit of a test, when a bit of measure when people first join us at the gym. And so many people have never, from school, they've never jumped, because very rarely do we in society need to jump and both feet leave the floor at once, do we? So that's the one thing that people that get to their 50s or 60s and they've almost forgot how to jump, and they've lost the confidence of even if it's just jumping on a 6-inch box or a 10-inch box or something, just that jump. So I think that getting on the floor, getting back up, and like you say, it's if you do it consistently, and it's the use it or lose it, isn't it? But it with strength, but with so much of life is just trying to keep going for as long as you can and slow the decline and keep doing what you're able to do for as long as you possibly can.
I went to see there's a comedian over here called Dave Gorman. Yeah, I went to see him last Wednesday. He's 52 or something like that, and he was talking about, he did a whole bit about he accidentally kicked himself in the nuts putting his trousers on, right? And he talked to one of his mates about it, Instead, when you're standing up, you put your trousers, you put your first leg through, that's fine. But then the belt line is there and you've got to get the other leg up and over. And he managed to heal himself in the nuts. And he told one of his mates was like, I haven't stood up to put my trousers on for 10 years because he couldn't. And that's one of the things I've spoke about in the past is like, I put my trousers on standing up. I put my socks on standing up. I put my shoes on standing up. Because at some point, if you don't do that, you'll not be able to. Because most people will sit on the end of the bed and do it or whatever, like however they do it, you know what I mean? But I'm like, no, I do it all standing up because if I do it today, I can do it tomorrow. And if I do it tomorrow, I can do it the next day. So
it's simple because, our culture brings us to lose our fundamental movement patterns. I joked, this past weekend, we had this open day in Naples. The following day, I taught an original strength workshop. I teach for them also, and I love their system, right? And I was joking on one fact. I was saying, when you're kids, and you're not able to walk yet, you roll on the ground, you do several things on the ground. As soon as you learn how to stand up, your parents put your shoes on. Don't go barefoot. You're gonna get cold. You're gonna get dirty. Don't stay on the ground. You're gonna get dirty. You're gonna get cold. Sit properly. Which, by the way, sitting on the chairs is not sitting properly because it's not the way we're designed to sit. But I'm thinking, how do we do things? This is our life. We wake up in the morning and we sit down for breakfast, right? And then we sit down on the toilet. And then we sit in the car to go to the office, where we sit on the desk in front of the computer. Then we sit on the car to go to the gym, where most people sit on the stationary bike. Then sit on the pack fly and sit on the station. So everything is seated, right? All the fitness machines are pretty much seated. And then you drive back home, you sit for dinner, you sit on the couch, and no worries, you sleep like this, right? In fetal position. But of course, you're always in flexion. So how can you be surprised that you have no more plantar arch under your feet? You have no more dorsiflexion in your ankles, that your hamstrings are short, that you lost completely your midsection strength, that your T-spine is blocked, and that your head is in front of your shoulders instead of the top of your shoulders. Simply, we are what we do. We are what we practice. Form and function go together. If our function is just being seated all day, I was joking on the fact that until a few years ago, we would at least turn our head, go backward with the car. Now we have the camera.
Yeah.
Because right now, you got the camera there, just going backward. I don't even need to run. At least you did get a little bit of T-spine axial rotation until 10 years ago. You don't get that anymore, right?
Oh dear, no,
that's because that's like mobility. Mobility is tricky, isn't it? So it's like, well, we'll just outsource it. That's it. That's what happens. That's what we'll become. We'll just outsource everything. So I can't do that. Oh well, it's all right. We'll discover something that will, and then you'll be all right.
That's why we're on the, this podcast and doing the stuff we do, obviously with you, Fabio, and with everyone else is trying to kind of fight against that kind of I suppose it's almost like a glacier, that moves very, very slowly, and almost so slowly that you don't notice it moving, but it is moving. And that's the way that kind of society, I suppose, and the general population and technology and work and just the culture is moving, isn't it? It's gradually eradicating the need for strength, for movement, and for everything. What were you going to say, Pete? Sorry.
I've just thought of that scene in Austin Powers.
What, when he's turning around?
No, with the steamroller. And the steamroller, and he's going, no! It's like that. It's like we're slowly moving towards it, and we can do, there's so many opportunities to do something about it. We'll just don't bother.
Yeah, very me. And it's good, Fabio. You mentioned original strength, because we had the other week we had Dan John on and Tim Anderson on together, and then Tim Anderson is coming over to my gym in England with Dan in April next year. So we're going to do.
I got to know because I had an email with John Usdom, and so he told me about it. So I'm going to run an OS workshop in Poland for the very first time in Poland in February. And I'm going to organize another one. So just because I know you'll have that one in your gym, I was planning on doing an OS Pressing Reset workshop in December. I'm going to anticipate that try to do it in September, October, so I can send all the people that did it in Naples and the ones who did it who will do it in Poland, and the ones who I'll try to send them over to your place to do the
Oh, I'll send you the link and things to share with people. That'd be great because Pete's going to be there. I'm obviously I'm going to be there. And and Dan and Tim will be there for a whole weekend, so that'll be great.
I love the system and I love the team over there. Those guys are great.
Oh, that's fantastic. No, well, Fabio, I mean, we've been on for about an hour. I mean, before we started, I said, right, what are we going to talk about? And it's been always, it's always a pleasure just to hear you talk about training, strength, life, programming, and it's another one of those conversations which I'm so glad that we've had. And thank you, and thank you so much as well for all your support at the recent SFL, because I wasn't as prepared as I could have been. Just with the weight and stuff. But you were, as always, you're fantastic. You give brilliant coaching. And I said at one point when I was doing those presses, I think your face was about 6 inches from mine, and you were screaming at me. And I was stuck, and it just wouldn't move. It just wouldn't move. But also I've got to thank you, and the people in the gym, my gym, have got to thank you, because we now listen to Mando War when we're training.
The Mando War, yeah.
Mando War.
It's so funny, aren't they?
They're great, yeah.
I went to see them live in Germany, by the way, because they're German and they're
so are they good live?
Yeah, they're great live. We met them in person because it was a small club. They're pretty good guys, nice guys. Just one thing, just so that everyone knows. Actually, you did not invite me to the podcast this time. I asked you. When are you going to invite me to the podcast? That's such a good time, the other 2 episodes we've run together. So actually, I self-invited myself, said, well, I'm going to do another one. You did. Yeah. So just know that within a few months or a year or so, I'll ask you for another one again.
No, we will definitely do it again. No, without a doubt. Because like you say, we've always got, and it's always great to hear what you're working on and what's great as well. And this is why I love a lot of the guys that we talk to. We've had you on a number of times. Brett Jones has been on a few times. Like Dan John and all these kind of guys. It's so good to talk to people in their 50s and their 60s who are still training with. Who was it? Oh, we had Sean Cairns on as well the other week. And Sean was saying he's now he's 52, 53, I think, and he was saying he wants to do the Beast Tamer again in his 50s. So it's just so inspiring to speak to. I don't really have much interest in talking to trainers in their 20s, and what I mean, because most of our listeners are a little bit older. And when you speak to people in their 50s and their 60s who have been around, like you say, lifting weights for 40 years, but you're still passionate and you're still striving to learn, and you're still learning new things about yourself, and you're still making progress, and it's just so inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing over the 3 episodes so far. Yeah.
And Sean is another example. He doesn't give up a training. He travels. He always trains. We've been finding each other in the same place several times, and we always train together. We never missed a training session. He's another, and this shows you how consistency, pays you off.
No,
he was hilarious as well, because he sounds like a proper busy man, because he told us about what he oversees. And it was like Australia, South Africa, India, Singapore. It was like that's quite a large chunk of the world over there, and he looks after it all.
Yeah. And he's based in South Africa. So he travels a lot. He does a lot. And again, but he keeps, at a certain point, even if you're busy in other stuff, in doing other things, you'd have to think that you need to keep yourself and your health as a priority, because if you're not healthy, you can't do what you're doing, And people don't get this. They sacrifice their health. Sometimes, I get somebody question, oh, you got other things to do. You should not prioritize your training session. This is selfish. Well, no, this is how I'm able to keep up with things. because if I put my training and my nutrition as a priority, then I can do what I do. And also, imagine this, as you know, I travel a lot. You've been with me several times, James. You see that when we have the dinners, and you see I'm very conscious of what I eat. I allow me only one cheat meal per week. And people say, that's even too much, you're sacrificing. Not really. Think about this. I travel and teach every single weekend, which means that 3 days, if not 4 out of 7, I eat out. I don't eat home. If I allow myself to eat anything I find, junk food and so on and so forth, and to skip training sessions, at 54 right now, I would look like a 76, and I'd probably be obese with diabetes. So I do need to have some self-discipline because my lifestyle imposes it. This is the only way. And also, you got to lead by example. I mean, it was fun. One day I went to a nutritionist and he was obese, right? But not obese, genetically obese. That could be different. Someone who did not care about his own nutrition. So how can you tell me what I should and should not eat? Well, clearly, I can still see those crisps in your
Yeah, dearie me. Fabio, if I know you're not like massive on social media and things, but if people do want to follow you, because I know I love it's Instagram is the thing that you use.
Mainly, I got more stuff there because now I hired a lady. She's great and she posts stuff for me because I'm very terrible at that. But I think it's xfab_69.
Yeah, it's x_fab FAB_69. Yeah.
You know my Instagram better than I do.
Well, no, I just called it up just to make sure we gave the right one. Yeah, so I just got it up on my phone to make sure we get it. But yeah, you do post, and it's great to see all your training and things on there, and what you're up to and things, which is brilliant. So yeah, even though this is going out on January the 12th, I hope you have a lovely Christmas, Fabio, and a lovely
break for you guys.
Christmas and New Year, and I'm sure we'll see you again next year, either at an event live and I'll ping you the link to these t-shirts, and I'll also ping you the link to the Dan John and Tim Anderson over here as well,
and also on the podcast, because I'm going to post it. So
yeah, brilliant. Yeah, the podcast will be out, and then we'll share all that as well, which will be fantastic. So thank you, Fabio. Thank you, Peter, and thank you all of you for listening, for watching. Please do share, like, subscribe, leave a review if you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to do so. And we are trying to increase our subscribers on YouTube. So if you go to Health Oddity on YouTube, give us a subscribe, and you'll see that Pete is now doing some nice YouTube shorts on there, which are little 15-second snippets. And my brother, who I feel like he's almost our social media, he messaged me the other day and he said, looks like your YouTube subscribers are up about 2% in the last week. he watches me, he pays more attention to it than us. But that's
2% are not a lot, isn't that much either.
Well, 2% of 100 is 2. It's better than nothing. Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much, guys. And thank you for joining us. We will be back next week. I shouldn't have said that because it's gone out of my head. No, we've got Pav.
Yes,
Pav Johal. Yeah, so we've got Pav Johal coming on next week to share with us. She does powerlifting, high rock. She does the tactical strength challenge. She's down, I think she's Strong Mum Project, but she is a really inspiring, lovely lady who we've got coming on with us next week. The week after that, we've got Paul McElroy. The week after that, we've got Ellie Crawley. The week after that, we've got Tartan Warrior from Scotland. So, yeah, we've got some amazing guests coming up in the next month. So please do share it around, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye, Fabio.
Bye, guys. Thank you again for accepting my self-invitation.
Bye-bye, Mr. Peter Lant.
Ta-ra.
And we will see you next week. Thank you. Goodbye.